It's official, folks. The Blue Jays have hit rock bottom. They are at their lowest possible point that they could be in this season. And Nick, I don't even know if that's true because Dalton Varsho seemed to tweak something late in that game. And if he goes down, then things are really starting to fall, to free fall for the Toronto Blue Jays. This is one of the worst teams that I've ever cheered for in any sport. It's been a lifeless group. I haven't seen any sort of improvement, and I don't see it getting any better. I actually see it getting worse. So yes, the title says the Jays have hit rock bottom, but I don't know if that's entirely true because I could see things getting worse. And if they actually start to lose more games and go on a massive losing streak, then we might be seeing some trades going down. And someone's asking, where did my Mets hat go? That way you can keep your sanity. Maybe I should switch over to the dark side, but no, I wouldn't do that. Very tough showing in these first two games for the Blue Jays, Nick. That's the bottom line. And I know that they're playing a first place team. I know Cleveland has been playing fantastic baseball, but enough of the excuses for this team. It's time to get something done. It's time to start performing, and it doesn't matter who's in front of you because you've given yourself that ultimatum now where you have to win games. It doesn't matter who you're playing, and the Jays just can't pick up wins. And that's the bottom line, and they're not doing it. And they just look worse and worse with each inning that passes. Boneheaded mistakes, just lack of offense, lack of pitching. Anything that you can name is pretty much going wrong with this Blue Jays team, and it's very frustrating. And I could sense the frustration in this chat as well.
I mean, they had Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette just a few years ago on these rookie deals, not making any money. They still are. Their goal and their whole purpose was to surround this team, the young core, which is no longer young anymore, with enough talent to make a run. And they've won 0 playoff games. So we're at now the basically the second last year, the last year before they are about to go into free agency after next season. And we're talking about not them competing for a World Series and all this stuff. We're talking about them falling out. The floor is falling out from beneath the coaching staff, the players, the front office. Like, it's the worst possible spot. It's the worst place this team has been since 2017. And now, in this very moment, and now I just don't even know how to feel. I thought they were going to be decent this year. I don't think the moves they made were enough. And quite frankly, the moves they ended up making were disaster class moves besides Isaiah Connor Falefa anyway. So yeah, everyone's just fed up. I'm fed up. And I mean, they spoke about it after the show just then on TV. Changes are coming for this team, and it's going to be big ones too. I hope, at least. That's what it seems like.
Yeah, and I understand that sentiment, Nick, that they didn't do enough in the offseason, and I tend to agree with you. But at the same time, apart from Shohei Ohtani, who is the big game changer in the free agent market this season? I don't think there was one. Now, were the Jays ultra aggressive in pursuing Juan Soto? I don't think they were. Were they ultra aggressive in trying to get Cody Bellinger? I I don't think so. So look, they didn't make the necessary moves to address the holes that were glaring on this team last year. And if you're not going to make the changes to the roster, at least try to shake something up when it comes to the coaching staff. Don Mattingly came in last year. He had a big role, he had a big influence on the way that the team played, and their offense plummeted. This was a team that no matter what players they had on their roster, you can always count on them having a good offense. But Mattingly came in, and that all of a sudden was out the window. Then he comes out and says, in back-to-back years, they're not a home run hitting team. Despite having Vladdy, who hit 48 home runs just a few years ago, despite having Bo Bichette, who's a perennial 25 to 28 home run guy. So I don't understand that comment that he made, and he's clearly changed the approach of this team. Ben Lively was throwing 88 to 92 miles an hour today, and none of the guys were geared up for the fastball, George Springer included. Now, I don't even know if he can get around on the fastball anymore. That's how much his play has fallen off a cliff in the past year and a half here. But the guys are just not ready to do damage on hittable pitches, and they see a lot of hittable pitches. So if the roster isn't working out, if the players aren't working out, make some changes. whether it be your offensive coordinator, Don Mattingly, whether it be your manager, John Schneider, shake something up, light a fire under these guys if you're not going to trade them all away because something isn't working here. And I want to reference one play that happened to with Spencer Horwitz in the eighth inning. He's getting picked off. A lot of people are going to blame Horwitz for that. But if you're the manager, if you're the offensive coordinator, if you're the base running specialist or the base coach, you need to be hammering it into Spencer Horwitz's head that you do not matter right now. You're not the tying run. You're not the go ahead run. The go ahead run or the tying run is in the on deck circle. So Vladdy doesn't even matter at that point. You cannot, under any circumstance, get picked off. And what does Horwitz do? He gets picked off. And then you see a bunch of confused looks in the Blue Jays dugout from who? The coaching staff. The
Yeah.
coaching staff has to hammer that point home to Horwitz. I'm not going to blame him because this should have been done in spring training. This happens way too often to this team, and someone's got to be the fall guy here. And I'm choosing the managing and I'm choosing the coaching staff because clearly the players aren't good enough. So you got to make some changes on that front.
Yeah. I think that John Schneider's job is in jeopardy. I think that he might be the one let go first, but again, are we fine with Ross Atkins letting his third manager go in his tenure since joining Toronto? I don't know. Is Mark Shapiro okay with that? Like, at what point? And let alone that, you're looking at the lineups they're putting out there. You're looking at John Schneider's comments. Like, none of it is encouraging to me at all. They're talking about how a couple days ago their ideal world was Springer 1, Turner 4, Bichette 2, and Vladdy 3. Legend, shout out for being a member. Shapiro out. 9 years of failure, no system. GTFO. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, shout out to you for being a member. You get all those emotes and things like that. But yeah, Peter, I don't know. It's such a weird, unfortunate spot for this team right now. And again, I'll bring up the lineup. Peter, George Springer hit number 4 today, and whatever analytics they're rocking, Kevin Kiermaier is still being put out there every day. Like, even just that, it doesn't make any sense to me. They're trying
Get
to
used to it. He's going to be out there every day if
now.
Dalton Varsho has to miss any time, and that's not good.
They're trying
Go
to
ahead.
make they're trying to force their signings to work, whether that's Justin Turner, whether that's Kevin Kiermaier, whether that's
Yep.
whoever it was. And the only one that worked this season has been IKF. So it's like they're bringing up the young guys. Relvis didn't play today because of unusual circumstances, because of things that happened, in John Schneider's words, because Vladdy got hurt. I don't care if there's unusual circumstances about anything. Throw Relvis out there. He's been up for a week and he's played one time. Like, there's just so many
Yeah.
things, and you can see John Schneider in the like they pan him in the dugout. Peter doesn't look very happy. He looks very uneasy. I think he might know his time is up, and it's giving me very similar vibes to days before Montoyo got fired, and Montoyo had a better record than John Schneider did right now. And this team is supposed to be competing for a quote unquote World Series when you have almost every player on your team underperforming. They can't hit the baseball. George Springer can't hit the baseball. Kevin Kiermaier can't hit the baseball, and they're playing 6 times a week.
Yeah, well, I mean, what other options do you have at this point? And I agree with you wholeheartedly that
Oh,
shout out to Scott.
shout
Shout
out
out to
Scott. I'm gonna
Scott.
drop the. Do I have the animation? I don't have
Stop
him.
attending games,
Yeah.
hit them with the money loss. Yeah, well, the reality is until that starts happening, then not many changes are going to be made from top to bottom. But yeah, you have to play Elvis Martinez. You have to play your young guys on a daily basis and just see what you have in them. And I saw uh Peter Peter looks like he's going into his villain
He is.
arc. That shadow is crazy. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It's a little gloomy. Don't have my ring light. It's not working. So gonna have to deal with the darkness for this one. But yeah, Nick, I saw this prospect ranking from Scotty Mitchell that came out today, and he listed the top 5 prospects or the top 20 prospects in the Blue Jays system. You know who the number 5 prospect was
Who?
on that? It was our first round pick for this year.
Yep.
So not only is the immediate future looking really bad or really bleak for the Blue Jays, the long-term future doesn't look too great either. Ricky Tiedemann can't stay healthy, and I'm not going to bash on player for not staying healthy, but that's your crown jewel, that's your prized possession, and he's not able to stay on the field, you better hope that he pans out if you're Chaparro or Atkins, because then you look real bad for a team that prioritizes development and
Yep.
spent all that money on the player development complex. Hasn't really come to fruition for this team. So, yeah, that's where this team is at right now in the immediate future and in the long-term future, where their number five prospect is their top pick for this year. I don't know. I don't know what to make of that, and it sucks, just to put it lightly. It totally sucks, and I think the Jays are in a position now where they need to make trades and address their future, because this core has proven time and time again that they're not good enough to compete. They weren't good enough last year. They made little to no changes in the offseason. You could even argue that they got worse in the offseason because they lost Matt Chapman, they lost Jordan Hicks, and a lot of big time not big time performers, but crucial parts of the team that we saw last year that helped them get to the playoffs. And it's just delusion to think that, we would have seen a different result. And I was ready to let the games play out, and I was ready to give this team a chance. Maybe we would see some internal improvements from Vladdy and Bo, and we haven't really seen it. So I think now it's time to pull the plug. We've seen enough. We've seen enough from this team, and we know how bleak the future is considering all the lack of prospects that you have. So why not try to recoup some assets? You have expiring deals that contending teams will covet at the deadline. You have to make some changes, and you have to make them now, because this season is not turning itself around. Now, I'm not gonna convince myself and delude myself that that is gonna happen. I just can't see it anymore, Nick.
Me neither. And I was on that train for a while. I mean, is there a world where they go on a 10-game win streak? Maybe. Doubt it.
I No, no,
I
no,
just
no,
don't
no,
see the
no,
world
no.
anymore. And we're gonna cover it in a video. I don't know whenever the video comes out tomorrow, or the next day. Like Peter or not Peter, Ben Nicholson Smith was going on it and was dropping some tidbits. The reality now is that at this trade deadline, which is a few weeks away or whenever it is, they're gonna have to sell some of their players. And the only question, the biggest question mark, I think Peter at this point they're gonna trade Jimmy Garcia, Yusei Kikuchi, maybe some of those guys on 1 year deals because there's no reason to keep them. The question now is Bo Bichette, to me at least, and that's the biggest question mark leading up to everything. But what kind of value are getting for you're trading Bo Bichette on his worst season where he's been injured for the past couple
Yeah.
weeks? And then the future, you mentioned it. There are some prospects that are somewhat exciting, some guys that will hopefully break out. But like you need, I don't know what they're going to do. They need to extend Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and I think they will extend Vladdy. And then you build around Spencer Horwitz, Orelvis Martinez, Addison Barger, those guys, David Schneider, because those are the only guys who've been producing this season. And you just completely retool, rebuild. It'll take probably 2 to 3 years for them to get back into playoff contention if they choose to do a rebuild or a retool. Maybe they get lucky and they don't take that long. But I mean, at this point, it's just, I don't know. They're going to probably fire John Schneider, I would suspect, over the next few weeks. I mean, I don't know what else they're going to do. I don't think it's his fault necessarily. I also don't think he's a good manager. I think he's a fine manager. I think he's just in the middle somewhere. But I don't know what happens first. And I'll ask the chat as well. What do you think happens first with
Yeah.
this team? Is it they get rid of John Schneider? Is it that Ross Atkins goes? Like, what is the first thing that happens here? They sell and they keep the management and they just trade their rentals. I don't know where they're going to go.
I don't know if I don't think they'll trade Vladdy or Bo this season. I think that's more of a next year at the deadline if they want to really visit that. But for this year, Jansen, Kikuchi, Jimmy Garcia. Those are the three guys that should be dealt at the deadline. And I know Jansen is a good player and we want him here for the future, but I don't know if that's even a possibility now. I don't know if he wants to stay. I don't know if the Blue Jays have had those internal conversations. I'm sure they have. But those are three guys that are on expiring contracts that can get you big time assets at the deadline. And we
I'm
spoke
sad.
about, yeah, I know. I know. And it sucks because there was a bigger expectation, and there was more to be had from this season. But I think now we're deep enough, Nick, that we can acknowledge that it's just not the right team. It's just not the right group of players. It's not the right group of managers and coaches to make a run. And if they do manage to sneak into the playoffs, Do you see them beating the Orioles in a series? Do you see them beating the Yankees in a series? The Guardians,
No.
the Mariners? I can't. And those are just four teams. I think the Jays are even lower on the totem pole if we stack up all of the American League teams into one picture. I don't think the Blue Jays are on that same level, not even close. So you have to make those tough decisions to really blow it up and to get assets in return for those guys that are going to be leaving at the end of the season or have a chance to leave at the end of the season. Is it better to get assets and restock your farm just a little bit as opposed to losing Jansen, Kikuchi, and Jimmy Garcia for nothing at
Jansen
the end of
too.
the
I
season?
forgot. I always forget Jansen. I mean, he might get traded. There's a world where he gets traded. I don't want to see it. I think he should be a part of the core going forward as well. But yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. I mean, this has been the lowest point of the season. Like, it's hard to see them winning 6 games in a row to even remotely get to 500. The schedule's rough. Trade deadline's approaching. The team now at this point, like, there is some bright positive things. Vladdy, I think, is going to be good. I think that Jansen, if they extend him, he's a good catcher, can't really stay healthy. And the young guys are doing really well. Barger's been doing really well. Horitz has been doing really well. And Schneider's not super young, but he's been also doing well. Like, you have guys to build around, but they're going to need to either draft well or trade well if they want to get into the next playoff push, the next era. Because if they don't, clearly the players right now, I mean, maybe they make a big free agent splash. Maybe that's the alternative, but that hasn't worked out either, aside from George
Yeah.
Springer and a couple of the other guys. But now, like, people are saying that contract aged poorly, so I don't know. It's rough. People are very upset in the chat. We'll take some questions in a little bit, but
Hmm.
Shane saying trade Bo now. Don't wait. You're losing at least 2 prospects and waiting next year's deadline and risk losing him as a free agent if we're actually contending for a playoff spot. The thing
I just think his value
is
is
low right
really
now
low
because of
right
his
now.
average and things of that nature. Yeah.
Yeah, I think his value is low right now, and just his body language that we've seen for this season, he seems pretty checked out. So I'd give him a fresh start next season, and then have give himself a better shot to get dealt. I don't know if Bo is a part of this future.
I
I
don't
don't
think
know if
so either.
Vladdy is either. And I know we'd like him to stay, but just haven't seen enough. Haven't seen enough from those guys, and it,
We're,
yeah,
we're gone
I
too.
don't know.
I want to throw this up there. This was from a couple days ago. He said Justin Turner's this is from John Schneider. Justin Turner's 39, George is 34, and Kiermaier's 34. I know there's a lot of public information out there that suggests they're on the downswing. There's a lot of information the public doesn't get that we have that suggests otherwise. Hopefully that turns for them. Peter, I covered this in I think it was one of the solos I did. Hilarious comment. I don't know what data he's getting showing that Kiermaier or George Springer were on the upswing of any nature. Swingers missing right down the middle. All of this stuff. Do we have any
What's
thoughts?
an upswing for Kevin Kiermaier, by the way?
I guess his last season,
650 OPS?
710 OPS last year, when it was the best of his since 20 whatever it was, and they re-signed him, and we already had Dalton
Okay.
Varsho. Doesn't make any sense to me. Not only that, there's a lot of public, data now. I don't think teams have that much different data than what the public has regarding this stuff. There's plenty of public data stating that Springer's washed and that Kiermaier was never really a
Yeah.
good hitter to begin with anyway, and that last year was a bit of a fluke regardless. I don't know. It's just so frustrating.
I don't need public data. I need my eye to do some thinking for me. And from what I've seen, haven't missed too many innings of Blue Jays baseball this year. Springer, this is not a problem that has persisted for what 75 games. This is dating back to last year where he can't catch up to fastballs and he can't pull the baseball with force anymore. So I don't think I just think the Jays at this point are trying to justify that contract and it's making them look worse.
Yeah.
He's not looking good. He's not. And he's getting old and his age is starting to show. His defense and his base running have been fine and he's managed to stay healthy for the most part, but I mean, he had injury problems before coming to the Blue Jays, and now he's staying in the lineup, but he's not productive on an everyday basis. So I don't know what data they're looking at, but it doesn't look good to me. I'm just as puzzled as the rest of us here.
We're also putting two 34-year-olds and a 39-year-old out there every day in a team that's supposed to be winning a World Series, which is age
But
doesn't.
of course, a 39-year-old is going to be on a downswing. He's 39. And no disrespect to anybody in here. I'm sure there are some over 39-year-olds in this chat here, but
Baseball downswing, not life
this
downswing.
is like that's like 70 years old in baseball years, man.
James with the
Come on.
10. Thank you so much. And Scott, we got back-to-back donos. Everyone's feeling the same pain. We'll start with James. Management have lost the players,
Dang.
the decisions, and coaching. It goes back to the Seattle loss. I agree. I think the management's starting to lose the room. And, I mean, the management seems to love, or players seem to love John Schneider, but I think that's over. Scott had to trade Vlad, Bo, most value, not rental, trade expiring contract. I think they do trade the expiring contracts and the guys that are on the way out. They'll trade them for prospects. I think they keep Vlad and Bo at this deadline, even though you can argue whether or not that's the right decision. But thank you guys both for the donations. Thank you, James. I agree. I think management's lost the players. I mean, I think management's lost the fans too. And I don't know how many fans are going to continue to show up if they produce horrible baseball. But thank you guys both very much for the donations. Appreciate it.
Only
Thank you, James.
legends play till 40.
But like the downswing, and again, thanks for the
Yeah.
donation, James Scott. But they are obviously on the downswing. I don't know why Kevin Kiermaier is still starting. I mean, I just never understand it. I like Kevin Kiermaier as a fourth outfielder, which you have Dalton. No sense. I mean, that still doesn't make sense to me. If they would have just signed Teoscar Hernandez, maybe this season would have been different. But everyone else is so bad that I don't think it would have saved the season anyway. I think it's just stuff I don't even. Looking at this box score is ridiculous to me.
Yeah, well, like I said, the only game changer on the market out there was Shohei. And if you don't, and Juan Soto as well, but you would have had to give up a boatload, and you don't have a boatload of prospects if you're the Blue Jays. So I don't know if that was ever a realistic possibility. Now, it just it's the way that the season has played out. Like there hasn't been a moment where we've said, okay, they're turning the corner. They're starting to figure it out. Like maybe we've seen some glimpses, but I've said this I've said this many times that when something goes right with the team, something else goes wrong. Like nothing is ever clicking at the same time. And I don't think we've seen anything click at the same time since 2021.
The Oakland game,
Yeah.
that was the
Yeah, I
peak.
mean, yeah, that was
And we don't have either of those players now, Gurriel or Semien.
n
I keep seeing that
no,
all over
no.
Twitter, and it's just
And,
like,
and
wow.
I'm not a huge fan of Gurriel.
Oh,
Like
me
I don't think
neither.
he's a great player, but Teoscar was electric in the middle of that lineup, and Marcus Simeon was the true leader of that ball club. Even though Vladdy finished second in MVP voting, there was no doubt who the leader was on that team, and he made everybody else around him better. So once you lost Marcus Simeon, I think the clubhouse dynamic really wilted away, and you were no longer the same team because he's still one of the top 10 players in baseball or top 15 if you think that's a bit of a reach, and that's a huge loss. That's a huge loss. So, yeah, the Jays kind of mucked it up a bit in the off seasons that precedented that one, and it's baffling. It's baffling how this could happen. A team could go from having the best offense in like the modern day game and then go to this. How can you go from the highest of highs to I don't even know what we're seeing right now. I don't even think it's the lowest of lows. This is lower than that. Like remember the Moneyball quote that Billy Bean had or Brad Pitt? He said, "We're the last dog to the bone. There's rich teams, then there's poor teams. There's 50 feet of crap, and then there's us." That's what the Blue Jays are right now. They're at the bottom of the totem pole, and I don't see them getting any higher than that.
Yeah, they're that's a funny analogy. They're very bad. I mean, that's what it is. They're not a very good team right now, and I mean, we're all Jays fans. We all hope they're going to turn it around, or maybe a lot of fans don't actually. They kind of hope that they'll keep losing so that way they can try. I saw a tweet saying that losing the next or going on a huge losing streak is the best thing that's going to happen to this team for the future. And there's a case to be made for that, just because Ross will finally have to pick a direction, or he'll be let go, and then whoever the new James Click will have to pick a direction. We have James Click still, the guy who led the Astros so many years to being so elite, and now we're just here where we're talking about one of the worst Jays products I've watched in a while. Just one. I don't
Yeah.
know about one of the worst because there's been teams that are worse. One of the most unwatchable Jays products I've seen. Like they'd never hit. The pitching is good usually. Sometimes it's not. You have
It's not fun. It's not fun.
unengaged. It's not. It's an unengaged team, which I'm sure they're trying.
Lifeless. Lifeless. Well, I would hope that they're trying because they're getting paid a lot of money and that's their job. So the least that we could ask for as fans is effort on a nightly basis. And sometimes I don't know if they're trying. It doesn't look like it out there because they're better than this. Or at least I've convinced myself that they're better than this. Maybe I'm wrong. I might be wrong on that front, but Nick, I don't know. It seems as though the effort is not there on a nightly basis when now is the time that you need to figure this out. If you don't want to get traded at the deadline, if you want to keep this team intact, and maybe the guys don't want to keep it intact. Maybe they're all miserable and can't stand putting on the uniform every day. I don't know what goes on in that locker room, but if there was ever a time to pick it up and rally behind one another, now would be the time, and they haven't done that. So I think that's it.
Yep. And if they do, then we'll look back at this stream and say, "Wow, this was the turning point." It's just so hard to even fathom. I mean, the amount of underperforming this year from everybody like Kirk, Kiermaier, Springer. It was supposed to be a bounce back year. Bo, it's supposed to be a bounce back year, and now we're looking at a point where it's the opposite of a bounce back year. Last year's offense is better than this, and last year's offense was horrible to watch. 89 wins is a pipe dream now, and that's what they got last year. So it's like we're just keeping stepping down since 2021, and 2021 was there was so much promise. We missed it. We had 91 wins. We missed the playoffs. We're like, okay, the team's looking good. Next year will be good. Ever since then, they made all the trades that seemed fine in the moment. They weren't fine. Also, hit the like button. Let's get to 50 likes. Let's try to run that up a little bit, even though we're all upset. I don't know.
I'm upset. I'm upset. You are wrong. The kids Horwitz, Schneider, Clement, and Jansen are good. Rest of the team is terrible.
Mostly
You
right.
need more than four players
Vladdy's good
to win
too.
a game, though.
I think Vladdy's
Peter
fine.
loves Peter loves Kirk. I never said that.
I think
Never
Kirk
said
is.
that.
He actually had 2 walks tonight. He's interesting. I don't know. Kirk is interesting. Bring back. Oh, it's so upsetting. This is just this is the worst the vibes have been with this team. Is there any good international players? Yeah. The product is poor. That falls in the management period. Yeah, I mean I agree. Right? Is like who goes first? Peter, I don't know if you answered who goes first or what happens first.
From management or
Just from right now, what's the first change that happens, or do you think there's none?
I mean, I think it should be Ross Atkins. That's what I think it should be, but who I think it will be is probably John Schneider because Atkins has never been the one to take any sort of accountability for his failures. This is his direct failure, or Mark Shapiro. I don't know who's calling the shots in upper management, but I think that Atkins should be the one to go, but Schneider's probably going to be the first domino to fall because Atkins, at the end of the day, is safe. That's his buddy, Mark Shapiro. So he's the one that brought him here. This is their thing that they built or destroyed. And
I
yeah,
agree.
so I think Schneider would be the one to go, but
Atkins should be.
Atkins should be because he's totally dismantled this team. He made them shout out to James again
James
for the
again.
$10. When ratings on TV get low enough, Rogers will make a change. Yeah, and that's true. At the end of the day, it is a business, but I could tell you why people go to the games. It might not be to watch Jays players. It might be to go there and have a good time. And it's cheap. It's cheap to go to a Jays game.
Can
You
be
can
cheap.
it's yeah, it's the only sport really where you could take your whole family and spend the day there. Like that's the appeal with baseball. It's a family environment. It's it's a affordable environment, and that's why people go. They want to enjoy their summer. So I'm not going to fault people for filling the seats in the Rogers Center, but yeah, at the end of the day, if they're still making a profit at the end of the year, then they have no incentive to change anything
They definitely
because
did lose again.
you could still go get entertainment from the other players on the other teams. Like if Otani comes to town, oh yeah, let's go watch Shohei. Come on. Like no one's lining up to go watch uh, Kevin Kiermaier hit. I'm sorry, Kevin Kiermaier. Don't mean to pick on him, but did Peter just say it's cheap? Well, it depends where you sit. You could sit in the 500 level for $20 a pop, $25 a pop, sometimes even cheaper against crappy teams. So yeah, it is
Cheap
affordable to
relative to
go.
sports, other sports teams, other
Yes, yes,
sports.
it's cheap. It's cheap compared going to an NFL
Raptors.
game or an NHL game or yeah, Raptors game as well. I'm not going to say it's the hot ticket in town, but it's the affordable ticket in town. So
Money back. I guess he's saying cheap, not in the sense of like it's a cheap activity, but compared to other things, definitely it.
it's affordable. It's affordable. That's what I'm saying, Shane. And if you wanted to go to a game for $20 by yourself, you could. $20
Now the water,
nowadays,
just
you
don't
you
get
can't
water.
even
Don't get water.
can't even go to McDonald's. Can't even go to McDonald's for $20. So
No way we're gonna deal with this for
yeah,
3 years. Cheapest, 100% the cheapest. I mean, yeah, it is the cheapest sport to attend. I mean, again, people don't really go for the. Oh, they do when the Jays are good. Key qualifier, yeah, relative to other sports teams. I mean, you're thinking about the Raptors. You're $600 for a ticket or whatever it ends at $300. I mean, the point is the Jays are terrible, and we're all here to. I mean, we cover the Jays every single day. We live the Jays, and it's not as. It's unfortunate. I think unfortunate's the word. I don't know. It's like going to an hotel. Any this is so annoying. It's unfortunate, but it's fine. I'm gonna take the
yeah.
positive approach like I always do. They'll bounce back.
I can't. I can't do that. I can't, Nick. Like usually I want to side with you
No,
and
I don't
and I
think they're
want to
gonna bounce
make you
back.
feel better. I want to be here to console you, but not today, man. I'm checked out. I'm just checked out with this team. I'll still be here and making content for you guys.
Every
Don't get
day.
that twisted, but like I just there's nothing to look forward to with this team.
Some of the
And I
young
want to
guys, the Buffalo
and I
boys.
want to ask you like, yeah, okay, what's when you turn on the TV to watch the Jays? What are you zeroing in on? What do you want to watch when you turn on the TV?
Right now, it's Berger, Relvis, Vladdy to see him hopefully be fine, and then the young folks, Horwitz, and just because they're the future of the team in theory. That's it
Yeah.
right now.
So for those of you that don't know, like I work at TSN Radio in Montreal and we cover the Montreal Canadiens quite a bit. Okay. I'm a diehard Habs fan. I have been for a while, for my whole life, really. And right now the team is in a transition period. Okay. And I picked a few storylines to look out for. I don't know how many of you watch hockey in this chat here, but I said what I'm looking for is progression from the young players and just seeing the key cornerstones of the team progress as a unit and get better. And that's what happened. Yeah, they fell in the lottery and they're not a playoff team, not even close, but I turned on the TV with a purpose. It was to watch the young guys play and watch the young guys progress. And that's what happened. But right now, I feel like this Jays team is just in the middle. There's nothing to look out for. And and that's my issue with this team. Like pick a lane. Pick a lane. Are you competitive or are you trying to build for the future? And right now this team is just muddled in mediocrity and they don't have a clear vision of what's about to come. And I think that's going to hit them in the face really hard. I really think that's going to hit them in the face because this is the worst place to be in any sport. So if you don't figure it out, if you don't pick a lane and pick the route that you want to go with this group, then I truly think we're in for some long years after these next two
I
seasons.
think they are gonna pick a lane now. I
I
think.
hope so.
I mean, yeah, Namala's definitely not gonna crack a roster spot until 2027 or something like that. But I don't know. I don't know. All I keep hearing is Vlad. Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's ahead of, they need to pick a lane, and it'll probably be the lane of retooling. I can't assume it's going to be a full rebuild. Someone asked that in the chat. It's just harder to fully rebuild when you have so many of these guys. Not like you're a super young team or you can trade. I mean, you could trade and get super young, but they just did all these
Yeah.
renovations. They want to fill the seats. It's going to be hard to fill the seats with a rebuild without Vladdy. Vladdy sells jerseys. All these players sell jerseys. So it's like, it's going to be hard for them to go into a full rebuild. Retool's more likely. Maybe they trade Bo. in the offseason, maybe they trade Bo if they keep him at this deadline. Like, there's a lot of ways to go, but none of them seem
But
super bright.
I understand what you're saying about the retool, but let's look within the division first. The Boston Red Sox, who were supposed to be the worst team in the division, are ahead of the Jays right now, and they have a fantastic minor league pipeline. They have a lot of top prospects. That could be some bias as well, big market, and they might be ranked higher than some Blue Jays prospect, but for the most part, they do have a very bright future, and they have their cornerstone, Rafael Devers, locked up for the next 10 plus years. So that's a check mark right there. Are the Jays going to be better than Boston in 5 years? Not so
Maybe.
sure about that. The Baltimore Orioles have arguably the best player in baseball this year in Gunnar Henderson. They have Adley Rutschman, who is a generational catcher, the next Buster Posey. Those are two guys just spearheading that group right there. And then they have Jackson Holiday coming up. They could probably re-sign Corbin Burns in the offseason. They're going to be really good for a really long time. And then the Yankees, I don't think they're going anywhere either. They have a good farm system and a really good major league team right now. So not you can't just look at the Jays and say, okay, well, yeah, they got to retool. What are they coming up against in the next couple of years? And I'm looking right in front of them, and it's the Red Sox, the Orioles, and the Yankees, and those teams all have better current rosters than the Blue Jays and better outlooks than the Blue Jays as well. So I think I think that's where we're at right now. So yeah, maybe the retool is the ideal scenario, but I don't know if it's going to be that simple for this group.
Yeah. Someone asked about why Arovis wasn't playing. John Schneider said, unforeseen circumstances. That was the reason. And yeah, I mean, the AL East is really good. Boston was supposed to be bad this year. Rays are kind of bad this year. The Jays are bad this year. But the Red Sox are better than the Jays. And obviously, the Orioles are going to be one of the best teams in baseball for the next 10 years. So they're going to be good. And yeah, you mentioned it.
Yeah,
The Yankees are kind of older too, but at least for the next few years, they're going to be competing, depending if they re-sign Juan Soto or not. So it's like,
I think they will.
and
I
they,
think he likes it there.
yeah, it seems like they're going to re-sign him. So then at that point, it's just where do they go from
Yeah.
here is the question, and the answer is hopefully a re something, rebuild, retool. I don't know, whatever you call it, whatever word you want, fancy word you want to use for changing up the team. And if they don't, then we'll be stuck in mediocrity. And this isn't even mediocrity now. This is
Yeah.
bad.
You just don't want to be stuck in the middle, and that's where this team is right now. We see how that could affect the next decade for a professional sports team. We've seen it in every sport, right, Nick? Like
Yep.
if you don't if you don't prioritize the draft and you keep fooling yourself into thinking that you could make an extended run in the playoffs and you can't, then it's not positive for the future. Like I think we'll wrap up soon because I think we got our venting
Yeah.
out for the night and we got our frustrations voiced and we've all been heard. We've all been heard today. Um, yeah, so Nick, I just think, like I said earlier, they got to pick a lane and they got to pick that soon because the deadline is approaching and they're going to have to make some big changes. And I think they will make some big changes because they simply don't have any choice at this point.
Yeah. Maybe they trade Isaiah Connor for Leppard per prospect at the deadline. He's been good.
Yeah.
He's been really, really good. Similar numbers to Vladdy, which is hilarious. But
Mm.
yeah, I don't know. Everyone hit the like button on your way out. All the stuff you're gonna want to do. But yeah, Peter, any final thoughts? I think the vent is out. Hopefully we can move on from
Yeah.
here and be not positive about the team, but positive about the fact that maybe something better is coming. Because hopefully it's only up from here, even though it's possible that there's downs from here. But any final thoughts? Shout out to the 200 plus in here. It was a great stream.
Yeah, shout out to all of you guys for the
And
support. You
James in
guys
as
never
well.
fail. You guys never fail with that. And yeah, it was a great stream despite another lifeless performance from the Blue Jays, which we've grown accustomed to. So again, shout out to you guys for not jumping ship, maybe have or not jumping ship on us at least. So thank you guys again for your support, your continued support, and we'll see you all tomorrow because this we need the night off after this one, I think.
Yeah, we'll keep doing the videos and the streams. Just hopefully things turn around. But yeah, take it easy, everybody. Thanks again to James and everyone else who contributed. But yeah, we'll see you guys. See you guys tomorrow. Hopefully the Jays can win.